Ma'am, could you please stop kicking my seat?
It's barely a tap. Relax.
It's been constant for the last 10 minutes, please.
Whatever.
Sir, is everything all right?
She's been kicking my seat. I asked her to
Ma'am,
stop.
I need you to keep your feet off the seat
Fine.
in front of you.
Racist woman's seat, kicking backfires, in the most unexpected way. The airport is a chorus before dawn. Wheels on tile, distant boarding calls stitched through the air like threads, the hush of bodies agreeing to move in the same direction. Fluorescent light lays its pale glove over everything: faces, signs, the sleep-creased hush of a weekday morning. The terminal breathes. The jetways exhale. One by one, people are organized into lines and lanes and seated zones, a choreography of compliance. He enters this choreography like water poured into a mold, jacket too well cut to advertise itself, shoes that refuse to squeak, a face that becomes anonymous in the mathematics of a crowd. He catalogues the world, the way his mind always does. Sound, smell, velocities. A coffee vendor is burning the dark roast. A family with matching sweatshirts migrates like a small herd toward gate 24. A rolling suitcase clicks a loose rivet at 3-second intervals, a metronome keeping time for a woman who yawns into her scarf. The screens bloom with cities. His own flight waits near the end of the concourse, a jet parked like a polished idea. He does not think of where he has been or what he has built. He does not lace the moment with biography. He is simply a man between gates, moving with a quiet certainty toward a seat he has already been assigned. Priority is its own corridor. He glides through it with the others who live by calendars and lounges. The scanners sing their indifferent song. Light kisses his belt buckle, then lets it pass. He offers his boarding pass to a woman who has been awake too long. She stamps it with a smile like a practiced reflex. The jetway smells faintly of damp carpet and static. The plane ahead looks patient, a white animal with a blue ribbon on its tail. Business class absorbs him with soft competence. Overhead bins accept his briefcase. A window accepts his gaze. The seat, the shape of a decision designed by someone paid to measure spines. He lowers himself into it and becomes the shape. Headphones rest around his neck but do not clamp down. He likes the prelude to quiet the murmuring that promises silence without delivering it yet. He tunes his breath to the plane's growing hum. Passengers appear and sort themselves. Jackets shed, magazines unsheathed, screens prodded awake. A child narrates the window's view to no one in particular. Trucks, wings, men in neon vests. A man in a vest, with too many pockets, hefts a camera into the overhead with reverence. Every movement declares a thesis about who we think we are at 30,000 feet. He watches without judging. Observation is simply how he is. People reveal themselves most when they pretend they are small. She arrives in a cloud of fragrance too floral for February. White, late 40 seconds, precise platinum hair that required an appointment and a sentence that began with, just a trim. Sunglasses linger a heartbeat too long on her head before they surrender to gravity in a case. Her carry-on is brand new in the way new money is, pristine, untraveled, eager to be seen traveling. Her mouth is a straight line as she inspects the row, the way one inspects a hotel room for flaws that will justify the complaint one came prepared to lodge. Her eyes find him. A flick, a stall, a recalculation. If there is surprise, it does not make it to her face, something colder does. She seats herself, with a controlled collapse, occupying the space, as if it has offended her, and must be tamed. The bag encroaches, the elbow encroaches, the perfume colonizes. Then the heel, it begins with a nudge. Raw instinct might mislabel it as accident, the microsurge of muscles settling, the footwear finding purchase. The second comes with a cadence. The third confirms intention. Her heel drums the back of the seat in front of her, a quiet percussion he can feel through the shared frame of the row. Not violent, not loud, just enough to be unavoidable, just enough to spell a message without letters. Asterisk lesson, move, concede, asterisk. He holds still. Stillness is sometimes a protest. He watches the wing flex against the sky. He counts the beats of the heel against the seat. 4, then a pause, then 3, a syncopated insistence. Her bag spreads in a slow tide onto the shared armrest. The tide ignores the shoreline. The boundary redraws itself around her convenience. The plane breathes, then closes its doors. Safety cards rustle. The safety demonstration advances like a ritual everyone has memorized and refuses to admit they need. The heel taps its rebuttal. She crosses her legs, recrosses them, sets the heel, and delivers another message that squeezes itself between the words the flight attendant is speaking. Asterisk. Not here. Not beside me. Asterisk. No one says anything. Silence is a social contract written in air miles. He adjusts his posture 1 millimeter, the kind of adjustment that announces nothing but tells his body he has chosen how to occupy this space. He feels the heft of his heartbeat unbothered, slow. He catalogues the nearby microdramas instead. A couple in row 2 negotiating the custody of a neck pillow. A young man practicing a presentation under his breath, tiny hand gestures apologizing to the laptop. The gentle, practiced smile of a flight attendant that does not crack even when a passenger asks if the coffee can taste less like coffee. The heel resumes. A whisper escapes her mouth, a sharp little word that lands not with sound but with posture. She turns a glossy magazine, without reading. Her focus is a fugitive that refuses to sit. The plane pushes back. The runway greets them with a stretching, elastic patience. The engines spool with the authority of inevitability. He slides an eye mask onto the idea of his eyes without actually covering them. The gesture is enough to announce a preference. He breathes through takeoff metal bird, concrete river, sky swallowing a white bullet, and the city becomes a diagram beneath them. Squares, lanes, rivers like ribbon candy. Climb, bank, level. Seatbelt signs are not the only signs. She takes permission to increase pressure. Her foot develops a vocabulary. Point, jab, set. The seat in front of her receives the language and transmits it backwards through the shared architecture. He imagines the molecules of steel and plastic and fabric carrying a message from her impulse to his muscles. He stores the message and refuses delivery. He watches clouds like islands. He watches sunlight find the wing and erase it, and then bring it back, the way truth does when people want a simpler story. He counts the breaths between pulses of irritation. 112 seconds. Her patience is half-life. He is a scientist of behavior, without wearing the white coat. The cabin flattens into the plateau that all flights become, an agreement to pretend we are not thinking about falling. Beverage carts are baptisms that come with clinking ice. His row is reached. Her foot pauses long enough to ask for a soda with extra lime, voice lined with a thread of complaint about the last time. He orders still water with a nod. The attendant's hands are the ballet of flick, pour, napkin, smile. The ballet travels on. He tastes the water like it is a discipline. In the reflection on the window, he sees the theater of her face, boredom, disdain, the small satisfaction of pushing against something she assumes will yield. Her eyes never meet his directly. They unusual, sweep the way a scanner does, cataloguing, not seeing. He lets the gaze pass, as if it were weather. At 38 minutes into the flight, she begins a different tactic. The bag shifts again, overlapping his space by functional inches. The armrest, already claimed by default, begins to serve as a launch pad for her elbow, an annexation disguised as posture. He considers reasserting the armrest, that small, age-old border between strangers, but does not. The refusal to wrestle over an inch is not surrender. It is a reminder to himself that he is not measured in inches. Hums lengthen. The plane does what planes do, turn distance into a nap. Eyes go heavy across the cabin. She does not sleep. Some people cannot bear the silence that sleep brings. She manufactures noise with motion. The heel resumes its code. Tap, tap, pause, tap. A pilot's voice appears overhead, smoothed by professionalism. Light chop ahead. A few minutes of belts. The seat belt sign wakes like a small red eye. Her foot, chastened by the small red eye, stills for a while. When the chop comes, it is mild, a reminder, and not a threat. The attendants disappear into the galley and reappear as if conjured, hands on seatbacks, faces making the weather seem like a game they are winning. The plane vibrates in the way all planes do at speed, a machine's purr disguised as a warning. The heel remains sheathed for 90 seconds. Then, sure that the universe is again hers to direct, she begins again. He watches a tiny crack in the cabin wall's paint near the window latch and sees a coastline in it. He lets his gaze swim there until the urge to speak small, clean, entirely justified carries itself to the door of his mouth and then turns around. Words will not educate what does not want school. He will not supply her with theater. He will not let her build her story out of his refusal. He will give her nothing, and let that nothing shape her own reflection. The reveal begins with a shadow falling over their row. A flight attendant, her hair braided into a geometry of calm, her wings pin gleaming, has the tray of snacks and the posture of someone who enjoys the idea of competence. She stops at their row, ready to deliver the practiced question, and then brightness touches her eyes. She recognizes him. Recognition, in its best form, is not a gasp, it is a softening of the face, an alignment with reality. She inclines her head the way people do in rooms where whispers cost money. "Welcome back, Mr. Ellison," she says, not loud enough to be a scene, loud enough to be registered. The captain sends his regards. "If you need anything at all." The woman beside him is all interruptions trapped inside an unmoving body. The magazine stiffens, becomes architecture instead of literature. Air thins around her forehead. Silence is not a silence, it is admission. He offers the elegant nod of a person who is used to greetings that could be headlines and chooses to answer them like weather. The attendant's gratitude is wordless. Entire charities sit in the space behind her eyes. She moves along after he thanks her simply. The tray clinks away, leaving altered pressure behind. That pressure arrives in his periphery as a rearrangement. She straightens, retracts her encroachments by degrees, reclaims her foot, like a thief, returning stolen fruit to a basket, and pretending it was always theirs. The heel goes quiet. The elbow relents. The bag learns the border it forgot. She takes a breath that she hopes will erase the last 40 minutes. It does not. Nothing erases. The present is a ledger. Her head turns, millimeters. A glance not planned for, flitting from his cuff to his wrist, to the face that is not a face in a magazine but a living fact. She is recalculating the economy of the row. She has discovered the currency she spent was her own. She finds no exchange rate favorable enough to fix it. He continues watching the wing. The metal holds the light like a promise it will not break. He thinks of nothing beyond the window. Thinking is not a performance, it is air moving. Around them, the world continues, being its practical self. A phone on airplane mode becomes a camera for a man documenting clouds. A baby's cry starts and stops like a ribbon thrown into wind and then caught. Someone laughs 2 rows back, a laugh belonging to someone writing to a friend that turbulence is a good metaphor for marriage. A man coughs with the abashed vigor of someone trying not to cough. A woman sleeps with her mouth open, defying vanity, her body's truth interrupting her social training. The seatbelt sign blinks away. Belts click, shoulders shrug, bladders petition. She remains in place, disciplined now by a new math. The plane is a straight line cut through air. Lunch happens on trays that pretend to be tables. He cuts the fruit into perfect halves without looking at his knife. He drinks water like a sacrament. She allows the straw to guide her into civility. Time at altitude looks slower when watched. He watches it with the ease of someone who has learned to narrate only when called upon. The attendants float and anchor alternately. They call him Mr. Ellison, without flourish. She hears the name again and again, the way a refrain returns in music. Not a shout, a structure. The man across the aisle, who noticed the kicking and said nothing, now notices the name and says nothing. His silence, too, is an admission. The descent begins as a suggestion, a softer thrumming, the sky tilting 1 degree more toward the earth. The plane dilates its flaps like gills, tasting denser water. The captain confirms what the body already knows. The city reassembles itself below, no longer a diagram but a vocabulary. Roofs, lanes, the argumentative yard of a train yard, the shiny lie of a river pretending to be clean. She fidgets with her necklace as if it can make her smaller, then folds her hands as if prayer will do what manners did not. He collects nothing. He has been carrying nothing all along. The runway rises. Tires murmur, then sing, then sigh. Reversers roar. The cabin leans forward as one organism, then relaxation returns in a spreading wave. They taxi. The world outside the oval windows is all gestures. Marshallers' fluorescent wands translating the plane into a parking spot, trucks lurching into usefulness, small stairs racing to bigger doors. The jetway kisses the plane with its ungainly grace. The ping announces permission to move. The aisle becomes a river. She remains briefly still, inventorying the cost of the last 2 hours. There is no refund counter. She stands in the staggered way of people who want to go before it is their turn. He stays seated the way people do who have learned patience from years of doorways. Bags drop from bins above like chosen fruit. Hands reach, help, negotiate. Feet commit to gravity. The line advances. She edges into it with a practiced smile that does not belong to her face. He rises when the river makes room. From behind them, the attendant appears once more, one more flight to be human inside, one more corridor of requests. Her voice is faint, meant for him alone. Gratitude again, this time wrapped around a story about a hospital wing, a scholarship, a community kitchen whose Friday line is shorter now. He answers with a nod that says nothing and everything. The woman beside him hears it all and cannot inventory it. They step into the jetway's mouth. The air is warmer here, airport air, with its stew of perfume and metal and the rubber stink of ground equipment. The line stutters, then loosens. A child drops a stuffed animal and the man behind them becomes a hero for bending. She does not touch him. She does not meet his eyes. She carries her bag like contrition, disguised as leather. The terminal swallows them. Movement accelerates around baggage carousels. Announcements plead in 3 languages. Someone's name is paged into eternity. A man in a suit argues kindly with a rideshare app that refuses to admit it can see him. The ceiling is an architecture of light that flatters no one. He walks, gait steady, suitcase in his hand, because he prefers its weight to an assistant's hand later. He recognizes the small bouquet of a press gaggle near security, 1 camera, 2 hungry eyes, a microphone that pretends not to be begging. They pivot when they see him, startled by the good fortune of proximity. They hold restraint like a kite string. It could snap or hold. He gives them nothing but a path curated by unspoken agreements. His driver waits where drivers wait, holding a sign that is unnecessary. The driver enjoys the ritual. She peels off into a different stream, baggage claim, then ground transport, then perhaps the curb where impatience smokes. The perfume cloud dissolves into the larger bouquet of the morning. She is already writing the story she will tell, editing herself into someone else. Stories do that to protect the teller. No one will ask the seat back for its version. He passes the lounge. Inside, a television shows a segment about a hospital that learned to expand its free clinic hours. The anchor's voice is a velvet mallet. A lower third credits a foundation spelled with his last name. No one in the lounge looks up. They are listening to themselves, more loudly. He keeps moving. The driver opens the car's door with the choreography of familiarity. The car is a different kind of cabin, smelling faintly of leather and the last person. The glass is privacy. The world slides past in sheets. Glass, steel, people, the city's thesis in motion. The airport recedes, a practical kingdom with its own flag. He remembers the heel as one remembers a metronome used to practice scales. Annoying, precise, a discipline not asked for. He remembers the moment it stopped and what stopped it. He does not enjoy the turning. He does not replay it like a victory. He lets it sit where it belongs, a contour in a map of a morning. Red lights flower, then fold. A siren rehearses its urgency a lane over, and the city opens for it, like valves do for the heart. He watches reflections multiply on high windows, cars, birds, signals, clouds, reality, rewritten as a smear of light. He is not thinking about consequences for her because consequences for people like her are not for him to adjudicate. The plane, the seat, the heel, the name, all of it is filed, not as evidence but as instruction. Phones awaken when they cross an invisible fence that tells them land has replaced sky. Messages queue and gossip. A notification blooms with a board's decision, another with a university's thanks, another with a photo from his daughter, a coffee cup, a law book, a small drawing in the corner, a cartoon airplane with a smile. He lets the messages stack. He allows himself the small human smile that does not belong to a company. The car turns toward downtown. On a bridge, sunlight appears like a verdict and blesses everything indiscriminately. The rivers lie, the graffiti sermon, the men moving pallets like a dance that earns rent, pigeons that refuse agenda. Pedestrians stitch the city back together with their feet. He catalogues none of their stories and all of them. He arrives at a building that learned how to be glass without being invisible. The driver opens. Hands that shook his father's hand once in a dream return to the world's texture. Door handle, elevator button, pen. The lobby smells like time and polished stone. Security nods, as if nodding can be money. He crosses into an elevator that obeys him without knowing his name. On the way up, he sees them. A mother and a daughter, in a visiting lobby area, framed by impossible ferns. The daughter holds a flyer about a scholarship. The mother holds the daughter's future like a fragile box. Their mouths are moving, but their voices cannot reach him. He does not need to hear. The elevator takes him into the floors where decisions are heavy, and he is asked to lift them with his mind. In a conference room with daylight pretending to be mercy, men and women adjust their sleeves around agendas. Someone thanks him by first name, last name, middle name, full regalia. A screen projects a list of programs their money will set loose in the world. The words are excellent, the spreadsheets gleam. The day begins doing what it does in rooms like this. But before the day devours him, the morning crosses his chest again like a shadow of a bird. The plane's narrow aisle, the window's oval, the tapping that tried to relocate him in the hierarchy of a stranger's mind, the way the tapping stopped. The way the universe sometimes insists on its own exposures not as spectacle, but as correction. He holds the memory not to feel larger, but to stay correctly sized. To be measured by the work, not the applause. By the silence he chose, not the speech that would have been satisfying and less useful. Across the table, a colleague's mouth is moving. A breakdown of commitments by quarter. He listens. He signs where he must. He asks questions whose answers will move money as if it were water into dry places. The air conditioner tries to convince the room it is snowing. Pens click like distant insects. Outside the windows, the city keeps its appointment with itself. At midday he steps into sunlight that could slice bread. The street yells its thesis horns, brakes, a man selling fruit with the insistence of a sermon. His driver pulls up. He waves him off for a block and walks. The city receives him without asking who he is. He passes an electronics store window with 30 screens tuned to different futures. One screen shows a photograph of a ribbon cutting. His face is in it like punctuation. He keeps walking. A siren argues with another siren. A dog tugs at a leash with more hope than strength. In a doorway, a woman counts her coins as if counting can multiply. He feels the steady animal of his heart. He feels the morning a little less. The picture of the heel recedes into a story he will not tell at dinner. Eventually he returns to the car. The driver opens the door. Glass tucks him back into quiet. He is both more and less visible here. The city moves beyond the frame. He watches it the way he watched the wing, not as an object to be judged, but as an event to be witnessed without owning. At home, or what the legal documents call an address, he will step into a space carefully built to answer him. Lights will perform, floors will refuse to announce dust, a photo on a hallway table will hold still. He will set his briefcase down and the leather will remember the table's temperature. He will pour water into a glass thick enough to forgive mistakes. He will sit and consider the simplest work, to be the person he thinks he is when no one is watching. When a heel taps, when a name is not known, when the small humiliations of other people's ignorance knock on the door, asking to be let in and shrieked at or let in and quieted by refusal. Later, perhaps, the story will travel without him. Someone 3 rows back will mention to someone else at dinner that a woman kicked a seat, and then didn't. And why? The story will be edited, the teller will become taller, bolder, younger, older, more clever. There will be a moral draped across the end of the anecdote like a napkin. It will land in a way anecdotes do, which is to say it will entertain, and then evaporate. That is fine. Not every story is for everyone. For him, the story stays as a texture, not a tale. The faint tremor in a seat back, the patience he cultivated not to turn around. The way respect arrived, not because dignity was demanded, but because truth refused to hide. He files it in the cabinet, where he keeps reminders that wealth does not alter physics. People will still try, in small and large ways, to tell you who you are. The work is to decline those biographies and answer with the life itself. In the evening, the sky rehearses red before it lets the bruise of night in. He sits by a window that remembers other windows and drinks tea that has no interest in becoming a metaphor. He is not recalling her face. He is not imagining her version of the day. He is letting the morning be small in the story of the day, the way a pebble is small in the story of a river, and still instructive to the water that met it. On someone's phone, in someone's kitchen, on someone's group chat, a sentence appears about a woman who thought the seat was hers to command, and found out the man beside her sat in rooms she wishes would open for her. The sentence carries judgment like static. It will make people feel briefly correct. It will be replaced soon by other sentences. Online, names become gladiators. Offline, morning comes again and asks for the same small courtesies. Walk, wait, share air, don't kick. He sets the empty cup down and hears the faintest echo of a heel against a seat in his memory, the way a mason hears the sound of a tool in stone long after he's set it down. Then the memory closes its own door. Night takes the city and irons it flat under lights. Planes carve lines over it like pens drawing across a dark page. Inside one of them, right now, a seat is being kicked. Inside another, someone is learning not to. Inside a third, a man is choosing to measure himself by what he makes possible and not by what he is owed. The world returns to its column of breath, its ledger of noises. He joins it, not above or below, but within, where the work lives. The morning is over, the lesson isn't.